I'm Maria Menounos, and you're
Lucero.
tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yes! Never fails. I get excited every time this music comes back on.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
We're on the same page. Mm-hmm. Our producer is also on the same page.
Right. You guys missed out, but our producers have been talking in our ear, making all sorts of fun and great noises.
Lots of noises back
we
there.
were laughing so hard.
Hello, everybody. AfterBuzzers, welcome back. We're finally back. We took a little bit of a hiatus, but we're back.
Like a long hiatus.
A bit of a hiatus, but we're back for season 2, episode 15 of A Million Little Things, The Lunch. That's what we're going to be talking about today. I've got my co-host over here. She's new. Everybody give her a warm welcome. We've got Halle Johnson. Very big fan of A Million Little Things, right?
I am actually a huge fan, and that's actually what I do whenever I enter in a room. I just go,
Honestly, that's the perfect way to enter a room.
Yeah, even church.
Make your own air horn noises.
Right.
I feel like Gary would probably do that. What do you guys think?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you'd agree with
That's
me.
why I could never hang out with them. There can only be one.
Can't compete, but I'm back, guys. I'm Jess. I'm Jess Lucero. I'm back. I like the applause. There it is. I gotta keep up with you.
I copywritten that. You can't use that.
Oh no.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I take it back. Okay,
right.
so we are going to do a little bit of a quick recap of the past few episodes that we did skip over.
Yes.
But also, let me mention that tonight's episode, I'm going to be honest here, it was a little bit dry. I felt like we were lacking some content. And then the end came, and my chills took over my entire body.
Yeah, no, these were mutual chills.
Yeah?
I was sitting there with you like, wait a minute, why is this happening? Why is this, something doesn't feel right, something doesn't feel right. And then all of a sudden, boom! And I was like, Jess! Ah!
It was a lot. So
Right.
we have so much to catch up on. The past 4 episodes being a lot of what we have to catch up on. We have tonight, there were a couple of moments that included trust issues. There were some new beginnings that kind of started and then kind of didn't start. It was interesting. We also learned a lot about people's priorities in this episode, some being family-oriented, some being work-oriented. It went a little all over the place. And then we're going to talk about some news for you guys. We've got some fun news, actually.
This is real life right here.
This is real life. I'll give you a little hint. It's from DJ Nash because it's always from DJ Nash. He is the producer, the writer, everything, the epitome of A Million Little Things. So, of course, it's going to come from the man himself. And then we're going to give you guys some of our predictions. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's get right into giving a little recap of the past few episodes. I want to start off with when Eric revealed, wasn't really a reveal. It was when Maggie caught Eric.
Right.
Kind of a lion.
The photo. I was actually surprised that she noticed that photo in such detail.
Yep.
I looked at it and I was like, girl, what's the big deal? Why are you freaking out over a photo? And then she was like, this happened in 2017? And I went,
When was your surgery?
right.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, she's really good at this.
Yeah.
Remind me to never be in a relationship with Maggie.
Exactly.
I can't hide anything.
See, for me, I was expecting this all along, only because I felt like there was a reason why Gary was being so defensive whenever Eric came around.
Yep.
There was something that wasn't right there, and I don't know. I had my flags up. I was like, there's something off with Eric. But the way she figured it all out, I agree. I think it was a little too quick. They could have done something a little different, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Seeing the photo, it makes sense, but it is a tiny photo. You're not really going to
it was
think about that.
It was such a minute detail. I was wondering to myself, how in the world did she catch that? And it was just such a dramatic pause over something that was so small. But I will say that might be what makes this feel so authentic and so real, because most of the time in quote unquote real life or in actuality, it's not always a big thing that happens that leads to something. And once again, the show is called A Million Little Things, so
that's accurate. You definitely need to really pick up on these little hints that they leave around, which I still want to know when Delilah is going to approach Sophie about the little things that she found in the sleeping bag, or that Gary found in the sleeping bag.
Yikes.
That still hasn't come up, but instead it ended up coming into a bigger conversation, which we'll get into a little bit later. For now, I also want to talk about Rome and Regina. Over the past few episodes, we've kind of learned a little bit more about their birth mother. I love Eve. I have such a soft spot for her.
I do, but I don't. There was a part of me that didn't really trust her. Something felt off.
Trust
when
issues.
when they first met. I went, nope, this isn't gonna be as simple as it seems. Something is wrong here, and that's why I love Regina, because it seems like Rome and Regina have a really beautiful, amazing relationship. Rome seems to be a little bit more effeminate than her. Like energetically, and then Regina seems to be really masculine centered. So she'll catch all those details, and she's the one that like makes most of the decisions.
Very true.
Right, and Rome will follow suit, but he doesn't do it in a way that affects their relationship in like an anger type of situation. But he still has his moments, like when he said to Regina, well, you may be right, but I'm not going to make the phone call. And then he walks away so dramatically. I was like...
Oh, very true.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, that's a really effeminate move to make there. And I love that happened, because it shows different sides of men. Like, they're allowed to be in that space.
Right, and that's what I've loved from the very beginning with Rome and Regina's relationship, because they're not the stereotypical husband and wife that we've seen for years and years in television. In this situation, Rome was the one who wanted the child. Regina took a very long time to come around, and I'm so happy because I've been rooting for them to have a kid, and obviously they still don't have a kid yet.
I have been like against it.
What?
Yeah.
For what reason?
I don't know. Just like, I'm with Regina. The thought of stopping my life to have another child, I'm like... no, I think I just took it personally.
You're like, no, I do not want a kid right now. You need to not.
Right, because I don't want one. You can't have one.
I'm the complete opposite. I'm like, I don't want a kid right now. I mean, who knows, whatever. Give it up to God. But I'm just saying, I don't want a child right now. So I would love for other people to have a kid, and like, I'll be there to take care of it, to babysit.
Isn't it nice when you can do that and then give it back?
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure wants to do that a few times here and there. Well, actually, Delilah did kind of do that with Sophie. She kind of, not that she wanted to,
but she did, like,
she's like, Roma, Regina, you take care of her for a little bit, because she's just too much. It was more so Sophie being like,
I know.
Go.
She that teenage angst, man, it really kicked in. But I feel like Delilah handled it pretty well.
Yeah.
She could have been very helicopter about it. She could have also just completely distanced herself from Sophie, but she really stood her ground.
Yeah.
I'm as much as she failed in ways of being a responsible person, she does pretty well at being a mom.
Yeah.
That I do admit. She's a very good mom.
I agree. Now, let me ask you this, though. With the whole Danny sleepover situation, do you think... Okay, my mother, growing up, I was, like, so afraid of boys. She would never let me sleep over at a boy's house. Do you think it was kind of weird that she allowed Danny's boyfriend to sleep over?
Boyfriend, air quotes.
Right.
I thought about that too. And to be honest, I think it really gets to be a case-by-case situation. If
Definitely.
he wasn't moving, I don't think it would have... No, it probably still would have happened. But because he was moving, I think it was more acceptable.
Right.
I'm kind of with you. Growing up, my mom or my dad never allowed the opposite sex to spend the night. But it's a little bit trickier when you're attracted to the same sex.
Right.
Yeah, if I were in his shoes, I would have just pretended that I wasn't gay. That way I could just have all my
Drag it
guys...
on for a little bit longer.
Yeah, all my guys spend the night and be like, hey, Mom, remember that one time when I was 15 and you allowed, I don't know, Jeremy to spend the night?
Yeah. Well, I just find it so funny. Also, Danny is very mature for his age at times.
I love Danny. He's become
Same.
my favorite character, and you get
Really?
to see him grow so much. Yeah, he's just he's assertive, he's calm, he's loving, he's nurturing, he's dominant, yet he's submissive. I feel like he's a really good balance of a person, especially one that's just so young And
definitely.
Yeah, I really appreciate his character. Every time I see him, I'm like, all right, everything's gonna be all right.
When I saw him cry though over Elliot, oh my gosh, my heart.
I was like, what did you do to my daddy?
Take it back.
Right.
And then I realized, no, it's because he's moving.
I know. I think Elliot's kind of cute though. I was
is so cute.
I was like, get ready. Like, this is a heartbreaker. It's like, okay.
Guys, tell me if you think Elliot's gonna come back and visit here and there. That was Danny's first love, first crush from the sound of it. He freaking drew his height in his house. I don't think
he's gonna come back.
Do you not?
No, and here's the reason why.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
This show is supposed to be like the epitome and representation of what real life actually is. This show stands out because it's not about a whole bunch of big dramatic things happening. It's literally called A Million Little Things. So it's all these little things that happen that what makes life so significant.
Right.
So when you're growing up and you're a kid, you have friends that move in and out of your life, and you learn how to cope, and you learn how to take care of yourself and make new friends and new connections. So I don't think they're going to bring him back because it gives opportunity for us to see a different side of Danny that's stressed out, that's hurt, that gets to learn how to cultivate himself in a new environment. And that's well more worth it than having him super comfortable. So no, I don't think they're gonna bring him back.
Damn, she's got a point here, ladies and gents. Honestly, that was very valid. I didn't even think about that. I was like, oh, 100%. He's gonna return at one point or another. No, I think you might be onto something.
Did I just win you over?
I think you might have.
Where is my round of applause? Where is my round of applause?
She's convincing me. There it is. Just wait till we get to the predictions and I say mine and then she says hers and I'm like, you know what? You're right on that one. I changed my mind. again.
Who knows? I might be on your team. You're a very agreeable person.
We'll see. Now that being said, though, another little boy who tends to act much older than he is Theo, who we've kind of neglected in the past with, we thought maybe he was too young to realize what his dad did and who his dad had a baby with and this and that. But no, he's reached the point where he ended up having to go to therapy. His mom went with him to therapy. And I thought that was incredible. I loved the fact that they went together because I was kind of wondering how someone so young can go to a therapist by themselves. I'm not positive on how that works.
I can tell you if you want. I've been in therapy since I was like 9 or 10
Maybe
years
you
old.
should fill us in for those of us who don't know.
Okay, so I thought it was actually wonderful that mom was in the room and she was actually going through I'll just call it the therapeutic experience too. When I was a kid and I was going to therapy, it was just me in the room with the therapist. And I didn't really talk much. I talked about things that were relevant. It was just getting things off my chest. But in actuality, I didn't really start to utilize therapy until I got older. But the fact that mom was in there, it helped create more space for him to express himself in ways that he wouldn't have otherwise.
Exactly.
But I thought it was funny the way that he did it. First, mom was just talking with the therapist, and all of a sudden he just chimes in, and you're like, where did you come from?
That's what I'm saying. He's so mature.
I don't like Theo very much.
Really?
Yeah, he annoys me.
So he has his moments. I kind of agree with that. I just think that the way they write his character is a little too mature for his age.
You think so? How old is Theo anyways?
That's a good question. I'm very bad with 10? Guessing ages.
Oh no.
It could be about right. I'm not completely positive there. But I will say I loved how the therapist was chatting with his mom to make him more comfortable.
Yeah, that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And it was a teaching moment too.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Like I can only imagine being his age, younger, in between, whatever. And you're like, I don't want to talk to this adult, especially if my parents are kind of forcing me to be
stranger.
Here. Yeah,
right.
You don't know anything about them. So, and that brings us to our first topic for tonight's episode. We're going to talk about trust issues. Specifically in tonight's episode, mother-daughter issues between Sophie and Delilah. First off, they found something a little suspicious, a couple of doobies.
Oh, really?
Up in that sleeping bag. Little Gary did, and he brought it over to Delilah, kind of informed her.
It's for the glaucoma.
Her glaucoma, exactly.
Right.
I almost said melanoma, and that does not relate. That doesn't help it.
Mono. You're just gonna name out different diseases.
Yeah, just
chicken pox.
Exactly. You never know. But I had a feeling something was coming over me, and I was like, you know, when Delilah approaches her daughter over this, Sophie, I have a feeling Sophie's gonna blurt something else out. I was thinking condoms. You were also thinking condoms, right?
Totally was thinking condoms.
And it ended up being birth control, which
technically, well, let's reiterate when we say birth control, because condoms are considered birth control, but the pill, right?
Contraceptive.
Well,
that's a different contraceptive.
The pill. The pill.
Exactly.
The pill.
Sophie outed herself,
which was great.
But I'm like, oh girl, hold your horses. Why'd you come out and sell yourself out?
I mean, she's 16 years old. I hear that kids start like having sex intercourse whatever when they're like 12. It blows my mind.
Yeah. But now she has 2 things that she has to talk to her mom about, and she's not on her good list. I can't even imagine now that honestly though,
she's using the perfect time to do it though. While she's like, right. Well, because mom is kind of in the doghouse, so she's at her mercy, kind of, because she allows her to be.
That's accurate.
I feel like Delilah gives her way too much wiggle room. And like, don't get me wrong, I don't take it back when I say she's a wonderful mom. All mothers, you know, make mistakes when they try to figure things out. But I think she also obviously still feels guilty about what she did. And it'll never go away. And Sophie will always be able to hold that over her head until the day Delilah's like, stop it.
100%. And Sophie, if Delilah was to say, you cannot be sleeping with people right now, tell me what Sophie would say back. She would say, oh.
She already did it. She said, you have no right to tell me who I can have sex with.
Exactly.
Because she's kind of right. But at the same time, you really gonna disrespect your mama like that?
Exactly. And then Sophie ends up sneaking off to Jake's place, and Delilah ends up helping them out with that whole situation. That was all
she was knocking on the door. What are you doing?
Hell yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, this is not gonna be the way that she thinks it is. Oh, and I gotta tell you guys, this is hilarious. When we were watching this, Jessica thought, maybe it's the weed, it's the smoke. That's why Jake was feeling sick. And I was like, no, girl, weed doesn't give people stomach aches.
I was like, it must be, it's the weed.
I was like, no.
I know it.
I was like, no, it's not the weed. He's probably got like an appendix thing going on, or maybe a bad flu. She went for the weed. I was like, girl,
it was the best thing I could come up with. I don't know.
It's okay. I forgive you, but that was hilarious.
You're right off the bat. We started off on great terms. I'm like, I know my prediction is gonna come true. It's right here, right now, and you started laughing right away, and you got it right.
I was totally
appendix.
Right. Yeah. As soon as I went to the next clip, he was like, "Oh, we have to operate his family, be here soon, the appendix," and I went, "You were saying," but it was cute. She tried to say maybe it was just all the smoke inhalation. I'm like,
maybe they put something in the weed. It's like it's not real. They put stuff inside. I don't know.
Girl.
How does it work? Hello?
Girl.
Help me. I don't know, man. What are your thoughts on Jake?
On Jake? I don't really have any yet.
Yeah.
I don't. I do think it's kind of weird that, Sophie and Jake are dating, and he actually technically both of them work for her mom.
Yeah. True.
And also hanging out with Regina, who's like an aunt or a godmom or whatever. I mean, that the whole term, like, where you eat
becomes very relevant.
Right. I don't really have an opinion on him yet. Maybe it'll unfold as we start to see more of him, or maybe they're going to make him completely irrelevant. I don't know, but I feel like Sophie needs this win right now because she's been going through a lot. Her dad died, and then she found out the whole baby mama drama stuff going on. So, like, I think this is just like her anecdote so that we can keep her calm.
Yeah, but I do think that they are rushing into it very quickly, and it's like a typical high school relationship.
Right, we've been there like 2 days and we're in love.
She's telling her mother that she loves him. First off, I'm like afraid. at that age, I was afraid to talk to my mom about any relationships.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I would talk to her here and there. But I'm not like, oh my God, yeah, Mom, I'm in love with him. Oh yeah, I'm on birth control now because I'm dating this boy. And
yeah, that is a bit excessive. That sounds
it's kind of a lot.
That sounds like a conversation between friends.
Yeah, 100%. And you're 16. This is from our eyes, from the viewers'
growing
standpoint.
up way too quickly. I'm on your team. I'm on your team.
I convinced her. Let's go.
It didn't take much, but I'm gonna let you have that one. I'm gonna let you have.
I'm gonna let you have it.
wait, is this Kanye?
It was a Kanye moment.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yep, I had to do it. Guys, before we move on to talk about the rest of tonight's episode, Halle has some information she wants to share with you guys.
Yes, absolutely. We want to thank you so much for making us the ESPN of TV talk. So while you're watching us right now, make sure you give us a like, give us a comment, and if you're listening to us on iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. 4, 3, 2, 1. They just don't work. They don't work. So
it's all about that 5-star.
Exactly. So thank you so much once again, and let's continue.
Yes, let's. Shall we? Because I'm actually, there it is, that sweet little ding.
I like that.
Okay, so we're also going to talk about some new beginnings, or not new beginnings. I'll tell you guys what I mean. So Maggie, she swipes whichever way you're supposed to swipe to say yes. Right, left,
right.
I'm freaking. She swipes right.
When was the last time you Tindered?
Your girl's never been on a dating app. If you see it, it's catfish.
Really? That is impressive.
Not I
want to be you when I grow up. That's pretty cool.
It just scared me. I can't. Trust issues, man. Back to the beginning.
Gotcha. Okay.
There it is.
Okay.
You never know what you're gonna get. They have a whole show around it. It's called Catfish.
That's fair. I'm gonna be you when I grow up.
If you guys use it, no harm, no foul.
Right.
As long as there is no harm, no foul.
But that's still really impressive.
If you need someone to come with you, give me a call. I'll be right by your side.
I would not do that if I were you. I don't want to volunteer for anybody.
I'll sit on the phone with you, maybe.
Yeah, when side note, when I watch Hunger Games and she was like, I pay tribute, I was thinking to myself, put your hand.
Yeah. Why'd you do that?
Yeah, right.
Okay, let's get back to the...
Okay.
We're a little off subject, right? But, so Maggie, she tried to go on a date and she ended up getting stood up.
It was hilarious.
By
Larry.
By Larry, yeah.
Not Gary, but Larry.
Of course it has to be Larry.
I mean, Gary got to watch.
Yeah, honestly, that was really sad. That's the way you don't want it to be done. You want to like show off and you be like, yeah, I just went on a date. What's up?
First off, their relationship is really irritating to me. Gary has mommy issues, which they showed us before, but you know how they say we either end up with our dad or our mom as far as partners that we date. Mm-hmm. I feel like Gary goes after Maggie because kind of reminds him of his mother.
I see that.
Right. She's non-committal and self-absorbed.
Yep.
Very much definitely. So if Gary isn't dating her, then he's acting like his own mother, being non-committal and self-absorbed.
Right.
It's a hot mess.
As a psychologist, I expect her to be very different.
Blind spots.
She is not what you would expect. But we also noticed something else that was very interesting. Why would Maggie plan her date at this restaurant of all restaurants?
Petty.
That's so rude.
Yeah, Maggie needs to get her own friends. I'm over it at this point. She's had plenty of time. Her hair grew back.
It's really sad.
Mean? Was that mean?
I'm just gonna turn away.
Me too.
I didn't say it. But when she had to go in for her 6-month checkup, she called Gary's friend. It's like whenever preparing for her date, she was hanging out with Gary's friends. While they are able to share the friendship, I feel like she just kind of needs to take a step back.
She's a mess.
Yeah, she needs to find her own friends. That's all there is to it.
She's been a mess from the start. I've never been a fan of Maggie. The only time I was ever a fan of her is when she would put Gary in his place.
Oh my God, I loved it.
Right.
I don't know. They might still end up together, but who knows?
Of course they will. Of course they will. They have to. It's part of the saga.
Exactly. It's a million little things. You never know what you're going to get. And then we can now talk about priorities because everyone's priorities are all over the place. But then there was a great moment where Rome ended up putting his dad ahead of work. And I thought that was such a beautiful moment, right?
Beautiful. I was actually taking notes on that one because I kind of like Rome. Sometimes I don't even think, like, I have such a busy career, and when something hits, it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But sometimes life is gonna happen, you know?
Exactly.
And I feel like he made a really great choice.
And it ended up paying off for him. He ended up getting a call from Isaac saying, you know, don't apologize. If you have your priorities straight, like, good on you. And
yeah.
I thought it was great. It was a great moment to see. I felt like Eve is also someone who is proving to have, well, I would say she has her priorities straight, but it is a little back and forth for her because she is doing these things for the baby, but at the same time, when we see her freaking ex-boyfriend pops up, Derek, and she's like, let me go and get him to sign these papers. Do you really think he's going to sign these papers?
He's going to beat you up, girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a mess.
She's going to ask him to sign these papers, and he's going to lay his hands on her the way he has in the past.
Right. The whole thing, there's no best way to handle the situation, but I feel like that was the worst way.
Definitely. What I had written down prior to us realizing that was Derek there, I wrote down, we haven't even heard about Eve's ex-boyfriend in this episode. And I literally read that line and then looked up, and that was when you were kind of putting two and two together, and that's when it was all revealed. And I was just like, really, man? Really?
Yeah. I was tapping your shoulder. I was like, Jess, who is this? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Why is he becoming so relevant? Why is he having so many conversations?
Exactly.
Why do they keep zooming in on him at the bar? Something's happening here. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Boom!
Exactly.
Baby daddy.
Of all things. And I was so proud of her because she had that thing showing that she was going back to school. It was like a pamphlet or something.
Very composed. I'm impressed by her.
Let's go, Eve.
Yeah.
But I something needs to happen there. She can't go back with him by herself and expect all this to be okay because she is carrying a baby. You know, it's not just one, and like a female getting hit, that is in no way okay.
Correct.
But it's not just her, you know, she has two. So it can have the child's life at risk at that point. It's
a messy
scary.
Situation.
It's a very messy situation.
Yeah.
And we still have 4 episodes left in this season. And I'm honestly, the main concern is Eve and her baby for me.
Yeah, I can see that too. I don't see anything else that's as pressing as this issue right now. Yeah. But Eddie. That has been really interesting.
Very interesting. Eddie and Dakota, huh? And this whole time I was like, oh, maybe you can relate to some parts of this because, you know, singer-songwriter.
Right.
But neither of us are fans of Dakota.
No.
At all.
She's just very dramatic.
She's like too dramatic.
Like people won't like. I'm like, girl, there's bigger issues at hand, like global warming. Like I don't know. I could not relate to her immaturity. She's crying over spilled milk, and then Eddie at the same time, I feel like he is allowing himself to get too sentimental and too close to her. I know he wants to keep his job, but at the same time, he's crossing a fine line. He literally just got his family back. So to put himself in such a vulnerable position with this young girl, I think it's stupid. I think it's immature. And you know what? I'm really excited for karma to be handed to him at this moment. Because it's going to happen. And you want to go to predictions right now? Because that's actually my prediction.
This is bringing us into predictions at this point.
That is my prediction. I feel like at some point, it would probably even be like the last episode. Because of course, you guys got to do that to us. Million little things.
How it is.
Yes. I think that Eddie and Dakota are gonna have a moment. Eddie's not gonna come on to her. He's very much so like, I effed up. I'm really dedicated to my family. And that's why they showed us the conversation between him and Theo talking about how dedicated he is.
Exactly.
And then moments later, it showed Dakota and him having a really sentimental moment in a bar that felt very inappropriate.
way inappropriate. And
Yeah.
she seems like she's 16. She doesn't look like she belongs in a bar in the first place.
Way
The
too mature.
She acts very young, and I'm still irritated that she tried to use all these mugs with other people's initials on them when there are plain mugs in there. It's like, that is common sense, woman.
And you know what? Theo sniffed it out.
I loved it.
Yeah,
He
Theo
knew
sniffed
right
it out.
away.
So I think that Dakota's gonna come on to Eddie, and either Eddie's gonna get caught by it, like either Theo's gonna see it or someone else. I don't know. Someone's gonna see it, or he's gonna internalize it and feel really bad and eventually talk about it. But either way, his marriage is about to be on the rocks. Get ready for it.
100%. Catherine is trying to give him that leeway, but I think it's gonna come crumbling down once again. But anyways, we'll see. Next week, I'm hoping for an interesting episode.
Me
What
too.
about you?
Me too. Because we gotta get better with these episodes. Like I said, it's been feeling kind of dry.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just kind of like that moment with like Harry Potter. You know,
Right.
like
Very
so
accurate.
like the last two movies up until the very last one was just kind of like fillers.
Actually,
you know?
no, I can't agree with that because I loved.
I got really excited.
On that note,
Dang.
where can everyone find you on Instagram, Twitter, all the goods?
All right, so my name is Halle Johnson. You can find me at PureHalle, PureHalle, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the things.
All the things. And you can follow me on Instagram at OvertimeJess, on Twitter at Jess Lucero Live. See you guys all next week.
See you next week.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.